Okay, well, good morning, everyone. My name is James Henderson, and I'm actually going to be your instructor as we basically in the next 45 minutes go through and tackle the design of the bathroom at this point. Okay, hang on one second. Let's just see what we can. Okay, I'm going to get myself started again. I'm going to be recording this class. So for those of you who are concerned about the speed with which it's going to run, I wanted to let you know you will be able to go back and review this. The file will be uploaded to our YouTube page sometime next week, and it will display on your news feed in when you start SoftPlan. My name is James Henderson, and I will be taking you through the class for the next 45 minutes, and we're going to be basically dealing with what was a kind of a semi-custom bathroom remodel. And so you will see over the course of the next 45 minutes, we will deal with cabinet layouts. We will be designing a custom shower wall that will include a curb. We'll be dealing with how to use some of the interiors to get in, some amount of tile running up the wall, changing the tile pattern with some banding around it and paint colors as well. And we're even going to deal with the possibility of importing a custom symbol from an external source so that you can see how easily that can be done to get yourself a more customized version of the model. This is the finished product that we're going to be going for. I'm going to actually drag this out of the way because realistically, the model that we're going to be starting with will actually take place in here. And so as you can see, as I move into this room, it is actually just a blank space at this point, right down to the subfloor. We've got a bedroom that's basically off of that, and then we've going to be entering through this doorway to the bathroom. As I take you into the floor plan, you're going to see this is not a whole house. We're really just dealing with a bathroom remodel. So in this case here, I have simply drawn in just the outlines of the openings and the walls that are needed for what we're trying to do. This will be the bathroom right here. It actually is a fairly spacious room, so I'm cognizant that not all of you are going to have the ability to have this amount of space to work with, but in this case it does. We're going to have a large bathroom here, a toilet room here, and then this actually went through to a walk-in closet, which we're not actually touching whatsoever. And so this will be the area that we're going to begin the design on. Now, SoftPlan comes loaded with numerous cabinet symbols and so on, which is what we will be dealing with. And so as I zoom this area up here into this existing space, you'll see that I can come in through the draw and the cabinet option. And as I select whether I'm going to use base or vanity, okay, as far as what our cabinet selections are, but once I select this option as my choice, I can then select from this list the type of cabinet in terms of its shape, okay, as well as the faceplate and what it's going to look like, and even what the dimensions are going to be. And so in this case here, I'm going to just start working from left to right on the dimension here, and I'll select myself the 18-inch option. I'm just going to erase these dimensions out of here for right now. So I'll come in and I'll select the 18-inch width option, and at that stage now, I'm just going to select that I want to pick a, what the faceplate's going to look like. And so once I come in here and select this, you'll see that I've got a host of symbols or faces that I can, select from. And in this case, I'm going to select the drawer option. And so once I've done this, I simply position my cursor where I want it to be located, move the cursor towards into where the faceplate's going to be, and click. And so again, just returning to the cabinet option, and again to the actual layout of the cabinet itself, I can select from the listing here. Okay, if I wanted to have the drawer front with a handle versus the double door with no handle on there, I simply make my selection choice. I've got my width at 36 inches at this stage, and I'm just going to, click to add that in, and so on. And so in this case here, I'm just literally, clicking on or selecting what my cabinets are going to look like as I draw them. Now, in this case here, in the middle, this is where I'm going to get into, I scroll the list and looking for my options that are there, and I can actually go into the specialty options and see there are a host of cabinets. And in this case, this is one of the specialty options that I'd like to add to the middle. something that's got, basically the 4-drawer option, and I'm going to click OK as that being my option here. I've got my width set, and just simply click to add it into the actual plan. And so as I go to miscellaneous and explode on this, I can explode the cabinets and see what their settings are looking like. And then just simply using the draw select command, I could just simply hit the either draw and select, or I hit the letter S the first time and then click to add them in along the way. And maybe move this, because this was actually centered on that cabinet there, so that we've got that properly centered. And so once the cabinets are placed in there, and as I come into the 3D, okay, I can see what my cabinets are going to look like. Now, in a lot of cases when I'm drawing, I'm actually not working in the texture mode. I'll work inside the shaded mode, and I'll come in through options, and I'll go into my mode options, and as I click on my face options, I'll turn the textures on here. And the textures here, it'll generate a little bit faster for me. So as we begin to add certain textures, but I get the speed with which the shaded mode will draw. So it's a little less detailed at this point, because we're not necessarily concerned about having a high-end image as we're working with this. As I take a look at the run of cabinets, there's a lot that I can do as far as the editing of the cabinets are concerned. So the first thing I can do is I'm going to edit this, and I can change the run of the cabinet, and we could change it to be painted. So we've actually got the option now of going to white or assigning a different color option altogether. I can also come into the accessories, and it's from here that you're going to set things like hardware, etc. up. So I can come in and I could select, depending on what the option is that I want. I could do, pulled pipe, and then I could even change it so that it's different for the drawers. Okay. And let me just close a window out. And so as I come in here, I'm going to change this and set it for the pull cup, so that on the drawers we get a completely different option. As far as the face is concerned, this is where you can come in and you can change what the face is going to look like. So right now you can see we've got frameless. I can change this to to be butt option, to the face frame, inset, and even overlay. Okay, so all depending on what you're wanting to do with that option there, and then I can repeat those changes to the other options. And so you'll see that as I more with the drawer here, as I come into the face on it, and I want to just take a look at what it looks like. If we're going to go with the butt option, you can see what we have there. And as I begin to scroll through what my different options are, in this case the inset, okay, or the overlay. And so once I have that, I'm going to repeat edit the inset option to the other face plates on here, like so. So it's the same. I can change cabinets on the fly. So in this case, once I see what I have here, and perhaps I just want to change the face of this from the what we had here to just actually a double door option, and then I'll repeat the same change over here. Again, these are just changes that we can modify on the fly, and it happens very quickly inside the 3D shaded, and doing it from here will allow you to be able to see quickly what those how those options will look as far as the plan is concerned. As I come back into the main floor plan, okay, one of the things that we wanted to have was going to have some upper cabinets that were going to have some some amount of shelving and stack on them, and then maybe a cabinet above. And so as I come into the cabinet itself, I'm just going to come in through the draw and cabinet, and in this case here, I'm going to select the wall cabinet. And again, I can come into the actual layout, and I'm going to go into the specialty option again, because here I can get my different options that are available. And so in this case here, we see the option is going to have a open section, which we can put drawers and so on in, and then we can also have an upper cabinet, which is going to have just basically some drawers or doors that can actually open. And so as I do that, and I'm going to change the width on this, to maybe 21 inches, so it's going to be slightly larger than the 18-inch cabinet that's there. And again, I'll just taking a look at what my options are going to be. let me go back and I'll just select this one here and select OK. And I'm just going to click to insert that in. And so once I've done this, I'm going to edit this cabinet, and I'm going to, you can see what the dimensions are on it right now. And it's going to be changing the dimensions. It allows me to see the full parameters of the cabinet itself. So again, you can override the widths and change them to whatever you want them to be. The depth itself, I might make it deeper than what the default is. Okay, I'm going to go with a much taller height. And once I do that, it's going to, basically pull out so I can see a better dimension on this actual cabinet itself. And we want to offset this up so that it's sitting on top of the 36-inch cabinets that are there. And so as I look at this inside the 3D shaded, we can see what the option itself looks like. Okay, so now as I take a look at this, I want to go in and modify, because we've got a rail down here which I want to get rid of. So as I take a look at this cabinet, I'm going to edit it, and as I modify it, I can go to the face and right here select to customize the face layout. Okay, so we have a double door, as you can see. We've then got a rail, and then we've got an open cabinet, okay, and another rail or drawer down here at the bottom. I'm going to remove the drawer altogether, so we're just down to this option right here. And on the double door, I'll remove it and actually just add a part, which will be a single door atop that. Okay, so at this stage, what we have now is we've got a single door and we've got an open cabinet with a rail, as you can see down below. We have set dimensions for these, and then the door itself will auto scale to whatever the dimension is on the cabinet. So when I modify that to 66 inches, this is fixed, and then the door adjusts its size on the fly there. You can horizontally or vertically reverse it, which will actually set up which way the handle is going to be. And so as I click OK on this and click OK here, you can now see what my cabinet is going to look like. All right. Now, as I'm looking at this, I can edit this and make the same changes that I did before, where I can set things like, a painted option on here. Accessories can be changed as far as what the hardware is going to look like. And while I'm looking at this, I can add things like crown molding. Okay, select from any one of the profiles that are going to be there, and it'll add the molding to it. All right, as I go back to the cabinet itself, this is where you can change, the shelving options and so on, and set that up, within the model itself. And again, if you determine you wanted a larger size here, I can always edit this after the fact, go back to the face option and edit this, and I could change this open cabinet to be a full 36 inches. And by doing that, it adjusts the door, okay, so it adds it, and we now get more, if you will, a larger space, for shelving and so on in there. And so now I can just, change the number of shelves, etc., to set, on the actual cabinet. Now, once I've done this, I'm going to come back into this option here. I'm going to pick Draw Select and pick the same cabinet and simply draw another one over at this end. And so as we zoom back, you can actually see what we've got for the cabinets. This cabinet, of course, would need to now be, if you will, reversed as far as its face is concerned. And so I'll just edit the cabinet and reverse it on the fly so that we now have the doors opening, the way that we need them on the plan. All right, I'm going to save this at this point, and I'm going to go back into my miscellaneous, and I'm just going to explode so we can see the actual cabinets themselves. And as I take a look at the cabinets, okay, one of the things is there's not a lot of space right here, and so on this cabinet, I may want to it's going to, give it a customized depth, just to bump it out a little bit, give it a little bit of profile and so on. And so in this case here, I could edit this drawer cabinets down here at the end, okay, and I could go into that specific cabinet and just override the depth, and let's just make it a little bit deeper, okay, and I'll do the same thing down here with the repeat edit. So as we're taking a look at it, we're actually bumping out the drawer cabinets on both ends, just giving it, a more visually, definition as far as that's concerned. Okay, while we're looking at this and dealing with the cabinets, I'm going to edit this cabinet over here on the left-hand side, and I'm going to, on the base cabinet, be able to come in here, and from the Add Symbols, this option will allow me to go in and add sinks, taps, and mirrors. And so when I click on the sink option, all right, it will open up my list of libraries that are there. And I can go down into the manufacturer, for example, and down into the Kohler library. And this is once I get into the Kohler library, selecting the, from the lavatories, and then I can select the symbol that I want to use. If you know the specific symbol, you can type it in the search. Otherwise, you can scroll the list of product codes that are going to be there, okay, and until you find the symbol that you want to use from the list. You can import to this library from their listing of symbols that are available as well. Okay, and so I'm just going to take a quick look to see what I can find that we can use. I may actually just do a search because I know the symbol that I want to use for today, and just pick this symbol from the list to more readily find it. And I will click OK on that to drop it into to the actual cabinet itself. Same thing for the tap or the faucet, if you will. I will click the add symbol there. I will go to the manufacturer. Again, I'm just returning to a library I'm comfortable with at this point. So you can, I'm not partial to this library. I just know this one, was used for this project. And so again, I could add a quick faucet there. And then lastly, I could come in here and select the mirror option. Okay, and at this stage here, I'm just going to look to do a quick search for a medicine cabinet, all right, to add above this, and click OK. And when I've done all of that, I will right click and repeat edit the same changes over here. Okay, in this case, this one here, for whatever reason, I'm just going to readjust the stack on this, and I'll edit this one over here. Take a look, 2 foot 3.5, and just edit this. And get it into place. It may have just been when putting all three of them in at the same time, found the faucet and snapped up there. So I just overrode the default on that. Once this is in place on here, I can now go in and modify things like the medicine cabinets and change the mirrors or the dimensions on this. And so I'll simply edit this mirror, after the fact. I'll be able to come in here and change the dimensions accordingly. If I check the maintain aspect ratio, it would override my defaults. And so in this case here, I'm just going to make this much taller, if you will, and then I will repeat edit that same change there to get that on the fly. And then just using the surface copy and paste, I'm just going to assign the same colors on there. So that gets us, for right now, the details in there for this. We'll worry about electrical and vanity bars and all that other stuff in a moment. But the next thing that I want to do is actually focus on putting in a custom shower over here on the left-hand side, or the right-hand side of the actual plan itself. So coming back to the main floor plan, we're going to define a custom wall to put in here on this stage. This will allow us much more detail with the plan when we're doing this, if we define a wall, because then we can create shapes and heights and so on, as opposed to using a stock standard shower out of the library. And so selecting file and going in through drawing options, I'll be able to come in here. Now, if I want to create this as a project template, which means this would be available to all drawings being, going forward, I could do that. If I go into the custom drawing options, I can then jump into the define wall, and I can create my own wall type in here. Okay, we have a Friday fundamental that actually touches on with what's new in version 2020 that goes in depth into project templates versus drawing options. And I would recommend that if you're interested in that, to take a look at that, because our instructor that day did a great job of breaking that down. For today, I'm just going to use the drawing options, and I'm going to create a brand new wall. And so I'm just going to call this shower for the time being, and it adds the wall in there. Now, what I want to do is I want to create a glass wall that has a curb at the bottom. And so I'm going to come in here, and I'm just going to go down, and I'm just, for the sake of what I'm doing today, I'm going to come down and just find the solid A. And this is, I'm going to use this to represent the curb that runs around, the shower pan, if you will, on the plan. And so I'm going to set its width at 3.5 inches and its height at the same 3.5 inches. And I'm actually going to fix that. It's not going to change as far as the dimensions concerned. And then I'm going to add a material, which will add this new material, and I'm going to go down and select glass. Now, for this option, I'm just going to make this 1/4 inch in thickness, okay? And I'm going to change its height to 84 inches. And now I'm going to get into where it's located relative to the actual curb, if you will. So we're just going to center it at 1.75 inches, and we're going to give it a vertical start of 3.5 inches up, so it sits on top of that actual curb that's there. I will leave it not fixed, so therefore I can, if I change the height of this for any reason, the glass is what's going to be adjusted, not the curb, or what I've called solid A. I will at this, if you want to color code this is where you can get into the options over here as far as the coloring is concerned. So if I wanted to, change all of these colors to something that's blue, if I wanted to shade it, a color, etc., you can set all of that up as far, how it's going to appear in the plan, and then I'll click OK on this. I'm going to right click and select wall, and in this wall list it will give me my shower wall. And so now what I can do is I'm just going to simply come in and sketch this shower down here. And so I'll just simply click to start, and right now I'm just using the tape measure as a guide, and I will draw it into place. You can of course dimension this if you know exactly what the dimensions are going to be. Okay, so if we wanted this at 3'10", and it's going to be roughly 4'10" in that direction there, then I would just simply type in those dimensions and set it up. All right. Now, as you take a look at this, it's going to draw the wall, in as far as the plan's concerned. You can see, this is the glass. Right now, it's not transparent. When we get into textures, we will, play around with that. And you can see the curb is not actually being shown. As I go to options and material and I take a look at the walls, I need to actually turn that material on. It's not an actual building or construction material, so therefore it by default is off. While I'm here, I'll select draw an opening, and inside the interior I'm going to select my shower door. And it's from this option here you can actually select what the size of the door is going to be, and then once you've selected that door, depending on what you're doing, okay, click and place it in. I'm going to edit this door, and I'm of course going to give it an offset. I need to set it up above the curb itself, right? And so we're going to bottom of wall to bottom of opening. I'm just going to type in 3.5 inches to move that up. And while I'm here inside the the actual options for this door, I could go into the and set up what the hardware is going to look like. And I'm probably for right now just go to, you've got door hardware and door and hardware, etc. Blah blah blah. I'll go up into the cabinets is where I'm going to go for my hardware, and I may just pull out this option here just so I've got some sort of a pull pipe or pull handle on this to show in the actual plan or in the elevation itself. And notice as I change into the textured option for just a moment, this is going to become transparent all the way through. I can edit this door, and if I go in and open it in the model, you'll be able to see that it actually opens, and you can also inside the model edit this to swing the other way as well. And so you could have it reverse the door swing so that it swings in. Either way, that will set your shower door up inside the actual model itself. So as we take a look at this, we've got ourselves a shower in place. Okay, we've got our door, and we'll get a few other items in there in just a moment, but we're getting basically all of the parameters set up for the major items in here. Now if I come in through draw and symbol, I'll add a couple of other items real quick. So I can add in this case, let's just say the tub. Okay, and so it's going to be placed there. And then again, I tend to use manufacturers as much as possible, just because the detail with which they are going to display on the plan. If you're taking the time to create this for a three-dimensional perspective, the detail with which some of these symbols are going to show, in particular from the manufacturers, okay, they're going to show a lot more detail. And I know this is a toilet at this stage, but it's not chunky and so on. You'll get much more detail showing, making your 3D that much more pleasing, so to speak, when you're looking at it as far as the 3D is concerned. Plus, if you run the bill of materials, you're going to get the product codes being called off as well. Okay, so this is where we're at this point. I want to go in and I want to add a few things to finish, so, or to try to bring the finish, to closure here. So let's go in and add things that are called interior items or room mode, within the plan. Okay, and so as I come into to the floor plan, if I change into what is called room, all right, you will see that in this case, in the bedroom itself, I have a room added. And as I right click on this, I'll be able to see that this polygon or this symbol, it contains information like what the wall covering is going to be, what the baseboard is, if it has one, what the flooring is going to be, etc. And as you take a look at that inside, your 3D model, you'll be able to modify and edit all of that. So I can edit the actual hardwood itself. And when I edit this, it will tell me the square footage. And as I edit the surface, I'll be able to assign a image to that. Okay, so that I can actually see or pick from this listing of bitmaps or so on that are used for the finish. Now, when you want greater control over this, because in essence, when we draw this in, we want to control where the baseboard is. For example, using room mode would bring baseboard around the outside of the shower. Well, we're not going to do that because we've got a curb there that's going to be tiled. So we're going to take control by changing, rather than using room mode, we're going to come in here and just from the interior mode, control what we want to see for the interiors themselves. So as I come in, for example, from flooring, and I pick tile 1. I'm going to manually trace this and just run where I want my tile to be. Now, I'm going to run it all the way through here, but I'm going to bypass the shower, for example, because I don't want to have this tile going into the shower, and simply trace it in. You'll see the square footage is listed, and as I take a look at it inside 3D, it adds my tile to the plan. Now, we can change the bitmaps. Right now, I'm just trying to get a finish, that will work for us. Okay, so bear with me as we basically drill down for what we're going to add. Once I've added this finish here, I can do a surface edit on this tile. Now, by default, I'm looking at just the standard options, and you'll find that in a lot of cases, as you get to using SoftPlan, the SoftPlan Plus, or the use of the manufacturers, just allows you to have a much more detailed, finish, if you will, on the plan itself. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to the listing of manufacturers and open this up. And I'm going to scroll down and just, looking for my different options that are available. You'll see that I've got all kinds of different, tile options here. So I can open this up and you'll see I've got, these tile options here. And so I'm just going to scroll down into the porcelain, option that's here, and I'll select this fabrique. And so as I do that, I've got, basically, different shapes or different colors of tiles, right, that we want to use or can use. And so just depending on what you want for your setting. So once I've done this and I've selected this as my texture option, I can go in here and I can, they'll all come with default settings. But if you're looking to change the style or the pattern, okay, you can change it, right here by just keying in what you want your dimensions to be. And so in this case here, I could change this to, 18 by 24, and I've changed the entire tile pattern at this stage to run horizontally on the actual plan itself. And so I will click OK on that to have that set. And so this gets, basically my floor tile. Now, using interior mode, we will do the exact same thing in the, if you will, in the to set up the wall options that are going to be on the plan. So first of all, I'll start with baseboard. And I'm going to start the baseboard here, and I'm just basically going to trace it to the cabinet and click this to stop it, and then I'll pick it up here and do the same thing. And in this case, with the baseboard, I can auto trace this room and just have it placed in. You'll see it, there's the polygon right there, and as we take a look, we can see the baseboard option, as far as that's concerned. Okay, in each of the rooms. You can adjust these or change them on the fly. So if you need to, change it or stretch it a little bit, you can always move it. Okay, to have it a little bit longer in my case, so it covers the toe kick, which is what I noticed it was, wasn't going to. But that gets us our baseboard in, and you can modify this by simply editing this, and you can change inside this interior mode what this is going to be, as well as the dimensions and so on. Now, moving forward with this, I want to also come in and I want to set up, to have a kind of a tile splash that was going to as far as the wall covering is concerned. And so I'm just going to come in and I'm going to select the wall covering. And in this case, I'll simply pick stone tile number 1. And I'm going to manually trace kind of following the same, pattern, if you will, all the way down to, here and click, and then I'll pick it back up here and run it to here. And I could do the same thing inside the bathroom if I wanted to carry that, over into the actual toilet room itself. So I'll just auto trace and place that in. When I right click, you'll get your locate options, okay? And in this case here with the wall covering, I'm going to do an edit. By default, your wall coverings are going to do a full coverage. I'm going to actually remove that from there and simply type in 36 inches. So in essence, I only want it to run 3 feet, kind of like a wainscoting all the way around, okay, of this tile. And so I could do the same thing in here, all right, where we come in and I'll remove that, and instead of it running 8 feet, I'll run the 36 inches. And as we take a look at that, we now have this, running around as far as the options concerned, okay, to, for that actual tile pattern. Now, I'm going to go in and I'm going to do a surface edit on this tile right here. And I'm going to come down to textures and I'm going to click on a library you don't have. And I've called it Pete's, okay? And this is, it was actually just kind of the name of a client working with, and these were custom tile patterns that I basically imported. They're just JPEGs. You can get them from the manufacturers. They're happy to provide them for you. And so in this case here, we were looking for a, more of a stone brickwork type tile. So this is just a JPEG that I literally copied into my soft plan 3D textures, and I created this folder, to drop the file in to make it, more readily, found. And so in this case here, I now have that as my custom tile pattern. And again, it's just a JPEG that I'm using. And so I can click OK and have that tile pattern now added, here, but also inside, the toilet room. Now you can see over here, I didn't modify this and, to actually only run 3 feet. So therefore it's running the entire wall height. This would necessitate me coming back and doing a right click edit over here and modifying that not to run the full height, but instead to only run the 3 feet. And so as I pop in and out of the textures, I can, control that. Okay, so now moving forward, the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to come into the main floor plan, and I'm actually creating kind of a stacked tile format on this. And so I'm going to come in and select here from the chair rail option, and I'm going to click, and I'm actually just looking for something that's curved. This will do right here. I'll click OK, and I'm going to position my cursor where I want this to be drawn, and I'm just going to trace where I want this. So manual trace, and we'll just click to start, and we'll click. And I'm going to run this, down here to this option and click. And in fact, we may run this all the way around because of the height that I'm using. So I'll do this for right now, just to I can always change it or erase it and add it again. But and I'm going to place one in here, and I'll just show you what I'm trying to do with this, okay? And so as I edit this chair rail, which is curved, okay, you can see at this point that, it's got, as I slide this slider bar across, it's got its own, customizable height, which can be changed. It's got a thickness. And if I go into the common, this is where I can actually change what its offset is going to be. And so as I click OK on this, and I'll do a repeat edit over here, and I take a look at this, I now have this chair rail running, here across. And now I want another one because we're actually going to place a tile pattern in there that's going to be used, okay, as far as the option is concerned. And so I'm going to place a tile pattern that runs, just roughly 8 inches above that, and then we're going to place another chair rail. So this will be just using the going back and forth between the interiors. I'm just going to come in through draw and wall covering once again, and this time I'll pick stone tile number 2, and I'm going to manually trace this, and this time I'm going to click here, and this one's going to run all the way around, okay? And I understand that I'm running behind the cabinets today, which you may not have want to do, and you may stop and start. But for what I'm doing and the speed with which we're trying to get it done today, I'm going to do that. Now you can see it's prompted me. There are multiple polygons that are going in here on top of one another. Do I want to do that? And the answer is yes. That's what I'd like to do. As I take a look at this inside the plan, I'll be able to edit this and give it an offset to modify or push it up. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to remove the full coverage on this. And in essence, I want to give it an offset. We're just going to push that 36 inches up, and we're going to give it a height of just 6 inches. And over here on stone tile number 2, I'm going to do a repeat edit. And so as I take a look at this, you can see I've now added a secondary tile in there. Okay, and so once again, as we're going to modify and change that texture, and I think you're starting to get the kind of the feel for this, but I'll modify the edit. Once again, I'm going to go down into the manufacturers, and I'm just going to come in through, the option that or the manufacturer that I'm going to use. And so I'll maybe come in here to grasp to the reflections, and I'm just going to select a different, tile type to be able to use. And obviously, I'm from an advantage. I know what patterns and tiles I want to use. Some of this is going to take you time to locate where items are and what where you want them to be. And so lastly, I'm going to come in here, and I'm just using the rail curve, and I'm going to use a draw select, and I'm going to do a manual trace, and I'm going to trace the last or the top border pattern for that tile to place it in there. And I'll say yes to this because, again, I'm adding, it's basically saying you've already added this in there. Are you sure you want to add another one? And the answer is yes. And so when I come in and I, edit the actual chair rail, I can edit this one, and I can modify, its offset on this to be 3 foot 6 inches, in an up direction. And as I take a look at this, I now have a pattern up and, on top of that. I've got this one running here, and there's the tile running all the way around. And so once again, I'm going to come in and I could do the same thing over here where I just pick the chair rail. I want to edit this. I'm going to give it a height of 3 foot 6 inches, or an offset of 3 foot 6 inches, just to push it up. And so that gets us the tile patterns. And you can see very quickly, we're getting this pulled together. So now, as far as the shower is concerned, we want to go in and maybe carry this tile all the way around in terms of its height, okay, on the actual plan itself. And so I'm going to, select the wall tile number 1, and I'm just going to pick the draw select option, and here I'll do a manual trace to begin adding this in. Okay, and so in this case here, I'm just doing this, and then as I edit this tile, this is where you can come in as far as the wall covering and actually set the height to, let's say, be 7 foot 6 inches, and as you take a look at it, I get the tile pattern pulling all the way up to the top. Okay, I've obviously got to put a pan, in there in the bottom itself. Okay, and so we're going to, play with that just a little bit. And so if I know I've already used, flooring tile number 1 over here, I may come in here through draw and flooring and just simply pick, flooring tile number 2, or in my case, I'm going to pick floor number 14, just because, I know I haven't used it yet at this stage, and I'll just drop in something for my pan down there, and using the edit and surface copy, I'm just going to place that same tile pattern there just to create some sort of symmetry. The surface copy paste will allow me to also add a tile pattern in there, something like so. If you want to do something like a niche in your actual shower, you can just use the opening option. So you can come in through draw and opening, and I could come in here through the library option for niche. And at this stage now, I'm just going to come down and click where I want to have that placed. I can edit this after the fact, remove the product code on this, and I could change this to, let's say, 2 foot 8 inches in width. And I only want it 18 inches in height. And then where do I want it as far as its offset's concerned? Okay, so bottom of wall to top of opening might be somewhere in the 5 foot range because we want it a little bit lower, and drop it in. Now, some of you, you're not concerned about, bill of materials and everything I've drawn to at this stage. So you just want to maybe place in a pattern, this tile pattern up in here. One of the easiest ways to do that is actually just through the use of what are called three-dimensional solids. Okay, so as I come in here, this is what our drawing currently looks like, and I can come in through draw and solid, and for example, I'm just going to pick the cube option. Okay, and I'm going to do two things. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to place a cube here, and then I'm going to place a second one right here. Now these cubes, keep in mind, I'm using this to do a design pattern, but the cube itself has no bill of materials whatsoever. Okay, so when I come in here, there's no soft list flag for this, but I'm going to offset this thing up 3 feet, and in this case over here, this cube, I'm going to, give it an offset of 11.625 inches and a height on this of, let's say, 7 foot 8 inches. And what it's going to do at this point is I've now added these two cubes here to the drawing. And so I'm going to edit this one. And as I do, I'll give it a height of, let's say, 2 foot 8. Oops. So we'll type that in. Again, I can move this into place. Just visually, I can use the move and adjust item and adjust this dimensionally, okay? And you can see it's sticking out from the wall, but ultimately what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this with the cube. Okay, I'm just going to surface copy and paste the texture pattern in there, and now I can just move this pattern into the niche, and so we now create this custom tile pattern. And the same thing here, I actually buried this in the drywall, so I'm just going to move it out ever so slightly. And this is a quick way of me demonstrating something when, bill of materials isn't at the forefront, but I'm just trying to come up with a design pattern. Okay, so now we've just created some custom designs using interior modes, which count for bill of materials, and solids, which really just is a quick way of doing something, and you can just stretch and change it on the fly. And so lastly, what I'm going to do is just come in and add a shower symbol in there, right? And so at this stage here, I can just come in through draw symbol, and we're going to go, I'm just going to, let me see, find maybe the thermostatic shower, option that let me see if there's another one. I'll scroll down this list real quick, see what we can find as far as the shower is concerned. I'll do this. Want something a little different than that. I'll just scroll the list and take a look at what we can find real quick. Drop in. This will do for today. And so I will click on this and drop that in to place the shower. And so we now have a shower head in there, and using the surface copy and paste, I can just come in and change all of that to match. Now, one of the things that you saw as far as some of the decorative options that I used inside the plan included the ability, I had like a wicker basket in there. And so we're at 11:44. I'm just going to be about 5 or 10 more minutes on this. But if you're not familiar with the use of Google Earth, okay, basically in essence, just type in, or not Google Earth, but 3D Warehouse, just type in, at some point go into 3D Warehouse. And in this case here, I just simply did a search for a wicker basket. Now you can go down and you can find what the option is you want to use. So let's say it's this one right here. At this stage, you can then download this to your to your desktop or to a download folder, okay, to save that. And it's just a SketchUp file. Someone has created this. It's free for you to grab and use, etc. And you'll find that as you begin, if you're not familiar with this, browsing this and taking a look at it, there are literally tens of thousands of symbols with which someone has created them already that you may be able to use and not have to recreate the wheel. Once you have found that symbol, okay, and so on, you'll then be able to come in through File and System Library and create the library itself using the SoftPlan Wizard. Okay, and so when you come into the SoftPlan Wizard, you'll be able to name the file and save it into your library. In through the draw and symbol at this stage, I could actually do a search for basket, once I've created that that actual basket itself. Okay, oops, I think I hit the undo, took that out. So I'll do a search here for baskets, okay, and I would be able to find that as something I've created or have imported, and this was the symbol that I went through and found from their library. You would also be able to find things like towels and so on, etc., as part of the this. And so in this case here, now I'm just literally drawing that into place, and then I can move it, and so on. So in this case here, this symbol was found from the library. I can also, go in and do a search for, towels, etc., and those symbols would all be able to be found and moved into place as well. And so I'm just doing a quick search for, here's the various towel symbols. I find the stack of rolled symbols here, and I'm just going to, click to insert that in. And as I take a look at it inside the 3D, okay, we're going to be able to find, our symbols. And in this case, oops, I drew a couple of them in there. So I'll erase this one out, and I'm just going to move this into place. Now, my basket, I'll need to edit this and take a look at it as far as its offset's concerned, and just move it up, if you will, to set on there. And so I'll set it at 36 inches and move it up. And so when I take a look at it inside the 3D texture, I have it there. Okay, so this is, you can basically, as I say, and you can modify these symbols, which are custom symbols that are brought in there, so that as you turn on and want to change things like the depth, it's going to shrink it or change it and keep it specific as far as the overall shape of height versus width and so on that the symbol was created from. If I come back into this option right here, and I come in through model and I take a look at interior elevation, I'm just going to click where I want the interior elevation to be set, and then draw it towards the plan. And over here from the model view, I'll be able to double click on this and see what the elevation looks like of the plan itself. Okay, it's here that I'll be able to then come in, okay, and modify or edit, and add things like electrical or mirrors. Now you'll notice, for example, while I see in 3D these mirrors, okay, they were not apparent inside the model. If I go into the definition, I can take a look at it, and in this case, it's not extracting in the interior elevation, and so I'm going to do that. And so just by going to definition and turning that on, I now get these displaying in the interior elevation, which will make it easier when I select draw. And I'm just going to do a quick search for vanity bar light and select this one to draw that symbol into place. And then I will simply move it where I want it to be, and then using the copy command, so just clicking the letter C, I'm going to copy it over top of the other mirror. And of course you can move this and set it up where you want it to be. And so that's going to also help, shine some illumination or light on here. Inside electrical mode, you'll be able to edit these the vanity bar, and from here, as you edit this, you'll be able to go in and set up what the customization is of the light, the direction that it's going to be displayed, and so on. Okay, and so I can do the same thing if I were to come in through electrical symbols, and let me just do a search for can lights, and I'll pick a couple here, and I'm just going to click to place one there, and then I'll copy this light here, and then I'll simply do a move and copy block so that we have a couple of can lights being displayed in the room. And as I do that, as I begin to shine these lights, I'm going to take it now into the textured mode. I'm going to come in through options and mode options, and we're going to begin to display the various lighting on the model. Inside this mode right here is where I can come in and begin to specify whether I want shadows, indirect lighting, and how that's going to be set up. On the face options, this is where your reflections will come into play. Now keep in mind, as you turn these options on, okay, it's going to slow down the generation of your model. And so in this case here, it takes a little bit longer as far as the options are concerned, and depending on how you know want your model to show. Okay, well, in terms of softness versus reflections, etc. You can control all of these options right here. So the renderer, I can crisp up the model by increasing the anti-aliasing. The face options, I have my textures turned on, I have my relief depth turned on, and I can even modify or change textures on the fly here, whereby I want to change this to, let's say, marble, and then regenerate this so that I can actually take a look at this inside the plan for the reflections, and so on. And once I've changed that to marble, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to do a surface edit and just change the texture here to something that might be a little more in tune with the bathroom instead of the black, and regenerate this to take a look at it. And so it's just generating at this point and calculating. You can see the stop up here in the upper right-hand corner as it cranks through the calculations. It's calculating reflections on the counter, the glass, shower that's going to be there. Okay, all of that is being calculated at this point as far as, the model is concerned. And once you have that, you'll be able to then come in and take it to the next level, which is going to be ray tracing it. And when you go to ray trace it, this is literally where the external, 3D, if you will, rendering is going to take it to the greatest level of detail. As you come into the ray tracing and you can come in through your mode options, okay, again, you can change all of these options here to include things like reflection. Now you get into refractions and so on with the lights and so on. And the caustic says if you have a glass sitting on the table and how the light's going to hit that. Okay, with your lighting you can control actually how much shadowing is going to be placed. And so as you regenerate this and set it in motion, okay, it's actually going to go through now and calculate at a much higher rate and passes with the with ray tracer. And so you can begin to see as the options are being calculated out here. It's going to take a little bit longer as far is concerned, but this is the sort of model that you're going to want to or print out for giving to the client for a final approval on the image itself. You'll see the reflections and so on in much greater detail. Okay, on the counters, there's a much greater level of detail here inside the mirror, and even the shadows and so on are going to be done with a greater level of detail. As this just kind of runs through the rendering, and you can see the level of detail even on the fronts of the cabinets, that is what we actually have for you today. It's a lot to pack into about 55 minutes. And so we hope that you got something, or picked up a few tips and tricks from today's class, in particular with, what you can do with the cabinets, how to get those, use the interiors to get, your different wall finishes and so on there, and even how to quickly import a symbol from an external source. As I said, we will, get this posted to our website, to our YouTube page, early next week for you, so you can go back and review some of the details that we ran over it. We hope that you've enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you at another Friday Fundamental. Have a great rest of the day, everyone.